Religion has many victims, and these are the stories of how they survived. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The Awakening. I'm your host, Heather.
And I'm your co host, Tamara, and we're so happy to have you join us today.
We are excited. This is our 21st episode, y'all. Our show is finally able to drink. Let's clap for that. Some of us, we had a few sips before we even turned 21. How about you, T? Did you have some sips before you turned 21?
No, my first sip was when I left the cult at 27. And my first drink was a Long Island iced tea, and I didn't
Oh,
know. And I drank it so fast, I didn't know I wouldn't be able to stand up. And when I stood up, I slid down the bar.
oh no.
So
Well,
I was
I
quite
think
old.
the first time I ever got tipsy, it was when I was a kid. My mom had taken me to a baby shower with her, and this was back in the late 80s, early 90s. So you
Mhm.
had your lush women that like to drink at functions like this, which is so odd for a baby shower. But one of the guests had brought this slushy stuff that she had made. Well, I was a little kid. I was like 10 or 11, and so I went in the kitchen, scooped me up some slush. I was eating that stuff like it was going out of style. Well, my mom's friend caught me with it, and she was like, "Oh no." She went and grabbed my mom. She's like, "Juanita, that had the liquor in it." So I was bouncing around in the back seat of the car the whole way home.
If
So,
only they had cell phones then and we could have
yes.
put it on camera.
That would be so embarrassing. Thank you for sparing me of that. So, today we have a really incredible guest with us. Her name is Kat, and she was raised as a preacher's kid. Welcome her in to the show today. How are you doing today, Kat?
I'm doing great. How about you, ladies?
We
We're
are
doing
good.
wonderful. Yes.
And I apologize. I'm getting over sickness, so my voice
No,
may
you're
sound a little
perfectly
scratchy.
fine. You're perfectly fine.
You're absolutely okay. And but thank you for joining us today and thank you for having an interest and we're going to totally enjoy your story. And at any time that you feel that you need to take a break, please put in the comments that you want to take a break from something because we know sometimes telling our story is out loud can be overwhelming. So if at any time you need a break, let us know, okay?
I will. Thank
Okay.
No
Thank you.
problem. We are a place to bring our voices together
you.
because so many of us have suffered at the hands of religious institutions. And our goal is not to get a story,
Right.
right? But
Yeah.
our goal is to make sure that our voices are joined together, that it doesn't matter what sect of religion that you belong to, that religion in general brings harm to those when they leave. So just make sure that you realize that at any time that you're not comfortable with what you're saying, you can just make sure you let us know.
Yeah. And I guess that's why I reached out to you guys because it was like by complete happenstance that like you guys popped up on my TikTok for you page because like I've been
That's exciting. I'm over here dancing.
Go ahead, Kat, you can finish.
I just felt like whenever I came across Heather's live, that it was just like everybody was just so, like felt so safe sharing it. And like part of me like wanted to, but it's like I just wanted to find the right avenue to talk about it. And just like I just felt a sense of like community and warmth and acceptance. So that's kind of the reason why I reached out to you. I was like, okay, feel like I feel safe with these lovely ladies to share my story.
And
So
that is first and foremost the most important thing that we want to stress with our podcast is that your safety and sharing your story is always about that, your safety,
Yes.
number one. And number two, it is about joining voices together to be able to speak as one voice.
You froze, Jesse.
Oh.
Oh, I'm sorry. Am I back?
Yeah, you are back. The last thing I heard you say was speak at one voice, and then it
Oh,
froze you.
oh, I'm sorry. That we speak with one voice, right? Regardless of the denomination that we were belong to make sure people know that it's not just one religious denomination that
Mm,
can cause religious harm. It is many.
yeah.
Penny.
Yeah. So thank you for your
Yes.
kind words.
Yes.
So, when you think about the faith space you grew up in, how would you describe the overall atmosphere?
I feel like when I was growing up, it was very much centered around like introducing kids to, the love of God and Jesus's promise to us and everything. And, you know, it and being a PK or pastor's kid, uh, it I felt like there was a spotlight on me before I even like knew that it was there. Even though I was like so young. So like there were so many times where I was just like, I there's certain things that I can and cannot do because um I'm like an example for everybody. And like, especially with other kids that were in there, they knew my dad was a pastor. And I had to set a good example. And I was the one side of the trope of PKs that I was the rule follower. My sibling was not. She was very much the rebel. Um, but it felt like at first that it was, loving, welcoming and everything, but as time went on, it started becoming much more closed-minded. And I'm sure, with the climate that we have in our society right now, that definitely pertains to that. But it started more and more as I got older, a view that I just no longer recognized, or I no longer subscribed to, even before I like put words to it, that it was like, I have questions and this is not making any sense to me. But because I was just so dedicated to, you know, the reputation of my family, that I was like, I'm just going to shove that aside. I'm just going to, hopefully it will just fix itself, I guess. But, obviously I'm here, so that didn't work. So,
Well, I
Yes.
I grew up in a very similar structure. I was a preacher's kid too, and just like you, I was the rule follower. My brother, he was the rebellious one.
mm,
Um, and I always felt like it was like growing up underneath a microscope
yes.
because it's like you said, everybody's watching you. And
Hmm.
the pastor is the example for the whole church of holiness and godliness, and so are his children.
How to
So
lead your family.
everybody's looking at you and they're hoping that you don't fail. At least I would hope that they're hoping that you don't fail. But if you do, then that's a reflection on the pastor being a failure.
Yeah.
And that was too much weight for us to have to carry as kids.
Absolutely. No, I agree. It's literally like to the T, that it's that like for my dad, it was always like, how, the church viewed our family, and like everybody was like, this, we need to be example of a godly family. And um, I was allotted some freedom and everything as I was growing up, but it was still always like, going to church every week more than once, Bible studies. As I got older, I was helping organize all of these events and everything. And because it was the pastor's kid, it was like it was bumped up to another level because,
Yeah.
of the reputation of my family, and that
Mhm.
had to put on this pretty picture of a godly family. And I did that for a long time. And like while I was in it, I was I enjoyed it. I was glad that I could do something for my community. It just started just forming to something that's like, this is not, this isn't safe.
Yeah.
uh,
Mhm.
but while I was in it, and I don't want to say drinking the Kool-Aid, well, yeah, I'll say it.
You'll say
Uh,
it.
but drinking the Kool-Aid and thinking like, oh yeah, this is a great, awesome, organization to be around or something. It was great. But then once I started questioning it, I was like, this is no, this is not what I'm supposed to be doing. This is not safe anymore for me or my family.
And I have found, like my family, I wasn't a PK, but we were one of the pillar families of the church.
Mhm.
And my brothers are married into the ministry, right? So there's a hierarchy a lot of times,
Yeah.
you have to be a certain level in order to marry into the minister's or the preacher's family. But the other thing that I was going to say, or to ask you, do you mind if we know what denomination you were a part of in general?
Uh, because he was a pastor, it literally jumped from denomination to denomination. Like
Okay.
there was a time where I literally looked at my dad and was like, "What denomination are we now?" Because, but we've been Methodist. My dad and my mom were Baptist for a hot minute. We were at a non-denominational church, and I think the most recent one was evangelical. So it was it just jumped around. I was like, we believe in Jesus. That's the only thing I know. So I was like, I don't know what denomination we are, but it has to do with Jesus. So
We're all of them.
yeah,
At this
yeah,
point, we're all of them.
yeah, yeah,
That's the umbrella that covers all of us.
yeah,
Jesus, right?
yeah.
It was the same way for me because, my dad, he was an Assemblies of God preacher, and then he started his own church that was non-denominational, and then we ended up in several different evangelical churches. So we even went to a Church of God church at one point in time. Like it's just we've been in several of them.
Yeah.
What helped you feel like you belonged there at the time?
Um, I felt like because I think at the time, uh, I didn't have uh, a lot of family that I really spoke to very much because, you know, the majority of my family is my dad's side. And all of my mothers are just awful people. So we never really talked to them. And, um, I had only one grandmother. So I feel like a lot of like the elders kind of took on that grandparent role for me of just feel like they felt like my family and they felt like, that they had my back. And, I felt very safe with them. And they made us feel that at first that it was a really family oriented thing. And, if somebody was struggling, they came to support them. They were helping my dad with many different things throughout his ministry while he was still a part of the church. But yeah, I felt a real uh, sense of family, and just a lot of people felt like, aunts and uncles and
Yeah.
uh, elders felt like grandparents, and what I really wanted in a healthy family. And obviously that changed, but that's kind of the
Yeah.
draw, I guess, for me.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it's one of the things that we end up having to wrestle with the most when we leave those spaces.
Yeah.
Because you're not just walking away from people that you love, you're walking away from your entire community.
Hmm.
And
Mhm.
that's why when people say things like, oh, you're just leaving the church so you can sin more. Listen, dude, I wouldn't walk away from my family, my entire community, and everything that I've ever known about life just so I can go drink a beer every now and again.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
It's so devastating to make that choice, you
Yeah.
know?
It
And
would be easier just to get up and ask the church to forgive you for drinking a drink
yeah,
than it ever was walking away from people who replaced my grandmother, my grandfather, my
Yeah.
aunties, my uncles, my cousins. I mean, we called them by that name. I was a part of the same church my whole life. So those individuals raised me from a little teeny tiny girl.
Yeah.
They
yeah,
were all I knew. I didn't even know family outside. I didn't know who my biological family was. The church was my family.
Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm. So
So, Kat, what are some of the messages that you had heard about yourself during this time when you were in religious spaces that stayed with you for a while, even after you left?
Um, I at first it was a lot of like good things, like that I was, I was a good example of a, good Christian girl and everything, and that I was, making my parents proud and everything. I was making the church proud. Um, and I got to a place where I felt comfortable, um, you know, telling somebody that I have experienced abuse. Uh, and uh, I felt like um, after that happened, that I was like, less than, I was dirty, I was awful. Sorry. Um, that I was just, scum of the earth. I was not worthy of, Jesus's love and everything. And at first, I felt like that they were really, there for me. And then I had an elder's wife tell me that, well, maybe that happened to you for a reason. Maybe God has a plan for that. And and I literally just looked at her and I was like, you're telling me that God wanted this to happen to me to teach me a lesson. And and I was raised in like purity culture that couldn't have a strap in between your breasts because that's going to make men go insane. uh no low cut shirts,
Yeah.
that we were taught to be wonderful women, or we're going to lead our men astray and everything. And it's like, why do I need to change the way that I'm dressing to make
Hmm.
it better for older men? That's like disgusting and ew. But and that was part of why I was so silent about what had happened to me, because there was just so much internalized shame. And that
Yeah.
it's like, I do something? Was I upset? But now looking back on it, I was in the depths of depression when it happened, because my grandfather had taken his life when I was like 13 or 14. So I was in the depths of my depression, and being like, obviously now I know it wasn't my fault and everything, but I was just, because of purity culture, I was just punishing myself. But it really hit me and started making me question everything when an elder's wife told me that maybe it happened for a reason. Maybe it was to teach you something. And it's like, for you to say that
Whoa.
to a teenager,
I
that,
am so sorry. That is so horrific. Like,
thank you.
wow.
Yeah. And so that was when I was like, that is a whole other level of messed up, that you could say that to a teenager, that
Yeah.
it happened for a reason, or maybe it was meant to teach you something. It's uh, like I wouldn't, like, I don't, even though I have a lot of people I definitely do not like anymore, I would not wish that on anybody, just
Yeah.
to teach them a lesson. So that was kind of when I was like, yeah, this, I'm starting to question some things now.
Hmm.
So
And I was just going to add is that when I look back as a teenager, right, and I've heard some of those verbiages and some of that language as well, I wasn't able to process that when I heard it said to other people. It wasn't until many, many years later that I was able to sit with what was actually said,
Yeah.
not to me because they didn't know anything, right? But to other girls that I saw happen to them, which may maintain my silence, right?
mhm.
I'm like, what? I was in my 30s before I was able to process those words because that is so dismissive.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Well, thank you. I appreciate
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry too, because it's just wow. Like, I can't believe that they turned it around on you in that way. Like, it's just so egregious.
it. Yeah.
And what happened to, and I always come back to this too, because Heather, you and I have been doing this podcast for 21 times now. And this has been like a thread theme when it comes to the women who have been on this panel of how much shame that they are put through when a lot of times their abusers are still sitting on the pews that did this to them.
Yep.
It's just I don't know what to say. I don't even know
Yeah.
what to say in my own situation, that it's like, why was I left to hold that burden? And the abuser was like, oh, he's forgiven.
Yeah.
Back on the platform you go.
Hmm.
Yeah, and like the person that had done all of those things to me was not part of the church, but I think once I heard that from an elder's wife, it completely shut me down to wanting to talk about it ever, because it's like, if this is how I like what happened to me is going to be received, then I just need to stifle it as much as possible, and then it's not something to ever talk about. And like my mother, she has, before she became a Christian, like she has that background as well, that she had to deal with a lot of abuse in her life. And I think because of just what one elder's wife had said, I was like, I can't talk about it at all. And I mean, it was only a few years ago that I actually like talked to her about it. And a part of me was like, why didn't I tell her? Because she's my mom and I love her so much, even still, and my dad. And, you know, I just felt like, why didn't I say anything? But it's because of just the climate of Christianity, that you're just put under so much shame that it's like
Yes.
you're emotionally debilitated, that you just feel like nobody's gonna really understand or see you or any of that. And even to your own parents, that you feel like that. And when I told my parents, like my mom knew, she was like, it happened during this time, didn't it? And I just broke down because she was right and she knows me so well. But I was just under so much shame from the church that it's
Yeah.
like I can't talk about it at all.
Wow. Well, thank you. Thank you for coming here today, for sharing your story with us, for being brave enough to do this,
Yeah. Well, thank
because your story is going to help other women that have felt like they had to be silent too. So
you.
thank you. Like, I just, you deserve the honor for that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And a lot of the ones who go silent the longest and bear the shame silently, that has lasting effects on you.
Hmm.
You never know when it's going to rear its ugly head,
Yeah.
and when you're going to have to, whether you'll be in the middle of a mall or you'll be in the middle of a family reunion, or somebody will walk by and they'll say something and all of a sudden you'll sit there and freeze like,
Hmm.
oh no, how do I get out of here? You know what I'm
Oh
saying?
yeah.
It's like, it's not something that people think, well, just get over it.
Yeah.
Ask for forgiveness. Forgive
Yeah.
them and it'll go away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't do that.
Yeah.
It
No.
doesn't go away like that is as easily as we want it to. And I'm sorry, because that's a heavy burden to bear,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's not yours.
Yeah.
No.
You're not alone.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
You are
appreciate
not
that.
And
alone.
now we'll be able to share that heavy load when it comes your way. All
Yeah.
you have to do is reach out. I'm assuming that we're older than you.
Yeah. I'm 32.
Okay,
Yep.
you're our kid's age. But just know that at any time, that this podcast is not just for today, a one and done. Many of our podcast interviewees contact us and say,
Yep.
hey, I
I
just
just need
need
somebody to talk
something.
to. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So know that, okay? And
Yeah.
thank you for
So you
sharing.
you kind of answered the next question,
Hmm.
which was how did that environment talk about a person's value? Which obviously they're not going to be talking about a person's value that highly if they're treating you like that
Yeah.
when you're talking about your trauma. So Tell me how your understanding of your value has changed since then.
Um, I definitely, it took a lot of therapy. It took a lot of just coming into myself and being like, you know, this is not something that I need to be around. And like, you know, it's, I think finally leaving the church, and this was, I think, 2019 or 2020 when we finally left, when it just came to a head. And it was uh even though like my parents are still very much Christian, like they left the church as well along with me because I was underage at the time. Well, I was still living with them at the time, but I feel like because I left the church, it took a lot of healing to do that. But now I'm like, I don't need to know all the answers. I don't need to know whether God's real. I don't need to, I don't need anybody to be telling me where my worth is because I found that within myself and, talking about it more, especially with my mom and her giving me kind of like the space to talk about it and the language to talk about it, that uh, I felt like I came into my own power and that it's like I don't need religion to give me that power. I don't need to pray to some, you know, wizard sky daddy to tell me like that I'm a worthy person, that I'm uh that I'm, worthy of love and believability, uh that I'm more than what society thinks of me, and that I don't need anybody's, validation for that, especially some, fictional wizard. So
I
Right.
love it because you traded certainty for curiosity.
yeah,
And
Yes.
curiosity is literally how we grow as human
yeah,
beings, is by staying curious, staying open, discovering who we really are
yeah,
outside of other labels that have been put on us, right?
yeah,
Because when you grow up in a religious environment, you're taught exactly who you're supposed to be in the world. You're taught everything that you're supposed to believe about that world and everything about the God that you're supposed to be worshiping.
yeah,
But you have no idea who you are outside of any of that.
yeah,
So to hear you say, yeah, I'm just happy just being me and not knowing everything is so beautiful because you're in such a beautiful place because you found peace with
yeah.
curiosity.
Hmm.
And that means you still have so much more room to grow. It's
Yeah.
beautiful.
And you have done it at such a fantastic age because I can
Yes.
tell you, Heather and I
We're a little later to
started
the
that
game.
journey way later. I didn't start like figuring out who I was until I was in my late 40s.
Hmm.
And I'm just now becoming comfortable with who I've become, knowing that that's always who I should have been.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah, you're a step ahead of us, and congratulations on
Yeah.
that. I'm going to make
That's
sure that you
awesome.
know.
Yes.
Well, you
You,
guys have been through like your own, hell and everything. And even, the age that you guys are at, that, it's never too late to,
no.
find truth, to find individuality, to find yourselves. And, you guys should give yourselves credit too, whether you're my age or older.
Well, thank you. We'll take that.
We will. We'll take all the compliments we can get over here. We're two old dogs learning new tricks.
But I just have to say that
But it
I
is
just so
beautiful.
appreciate the
Yeah.
youth. You know what I'm saying? The younger generations that have been able to come into their own so much sooner than, you know, I was able to. And I understand, like Heather, I have a post on my TikTok, and it shows the weight of the world, and it says, I have survival on my back, and it shows three little babies attached to my legs, right? It's a cartoon figure, but that's really what it was for some of us. We went straight from one thing to marriage to children, and then we had to do it with children, and we realized that the survival on our back was never something our children would be able to see,
Yeah.
Yeah.
or we didn't want them to see. So we always kept their survival to keep them protected. And whenever somebody's your age, it's just refreshing to know that that it's possible.
Yeah.
So thank you. Before I cry.
Oh,
It says, so were there parts of you that felt easier to show than other parts of you
oh,
when,
definitely. Definitely.
yeah.
Uh, I definitely was, as I got older, a lot more outspoken because like my mom, like she very much roots for the underdog, or she's the first person that will, come to the defense of somebody. And I get a lot of the fire that I have from my mom. And she definitely instilled in me, even though she is still Christian and still in it, that she's uh, she definitely is a force to be reckoned with if you're, one of those people that judges people by their background or where they come from, what race they are, anything like that. And so she definitely instilled in me that. And I was hearing constantly from my church of like people in the LGBTQIA plus community were evil and that they're sinners, and that people who are trans are, disgusting. And hearing all this stuff like, women who have children before marriage are, sinful Jezebels, and, you know, like all of these things and everything. And like, I was in a public school and I was around some of that. Like, it's not as, people weren't as open in the early aughts as they are now when I was in school. But I would just meet these people and I was like, these people are like the sweetest, most amazing people. And, that they have really amazing, stable families and their children are so loved. And they're, I mean, at the time, definitely trying to be authentic and being themselves. But it's like that they're not awful people. Like people my entire life have ex- expressed them to be. And so it was a lot of questioning of, you're telling me that they're awful, evil people, but they're not. So I don't get where this is coming from. And it was a lot of questioning that I was still in it, but it's like, this doesn't seem right to me, but I'm just gonna have my own views while I'm still Christian. But that always never I couldn't swear with it.
Yeah.
Mhm. And I have to say, a lot of times, I remember back, and we've discussed this many times, that when I was deep in my Christianity, I thought the same way, and I would say
Yeah.
the same words, and I would do the same things because that's what I thought I was supposed to do as a good Christian person. And I remember feeling icky about it, right?
Yep.
But it
Mhm.
wasn't until I was able to leave the cult to be able to say, that will never be me again.
Yeah.
So we had to unteach ourselves what we were taught, but it was never who I was, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
Yep. It was a product of the indoctrination, is what it
Hmm.
was. We were doing what we were taught was the right way to be. And when you look back on those things, it's crazy to see the things that were justified and baptized in the name of God that were completely unholy, you
Yeah.
know?
Hmm. And I often say this, we had a church, and I say that I was raised a Christian nationalist because we had a couple that was from the Black community. And they came to our church and they wanted to join and be a part of our church. And I'm telling you, this couple was the sweetest couple I had ever met. They loved me to pieces. And you know, the woman came into church and she had a wig on with a Pentecostal bun at the nape of her neck. And our pastor left the organ and walked back and looked at both of them and said they needed to leave the church now, that he would not be their pastor, because she had on fake hair and it wasn't lining up with the holiness of Godhead. And I remember sitting there like 16 or 17, like sucking in air, like you've got to be kidding me. She was trying to look like us. She was trying to do what the pastor
Yeah.
wanted her to do and to abide by the holiness rules and stuff. And I remember just being devastated and never breathing a word to anybody about it because I knew the consequences of me disagreeing with what just happened would mean I would be put out of the church as well.
Yeah.
And that's one of those main memories in my brain that I realized that that was the moment.
Mhm.
That was the moment
Yeah.
that I realized looking back that I started thinking in my head,
Mhm.
I will not, I will not do this.
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
will not do this. Yeah. So that was
And
kind of heavy, but yeah,
that's
thank you.
that's
Thank you.
crazy because like you mean our founding fathers can wear wigs and it was fine for them, but Jesus, like just it's so many double standards that
It
it
is.
Mhm.
literally makes your head spin. It's
I
like,
saw somebody share a video clip this morning. There was one preacher that was talking about, how women, they got to be pretty and presentable and yada, yada, yada. And then in the next clip, there was a pastor saying, all these women out there with these 50 pounds of makeup on, and they're out here looking like these Jezebels. And I'm like, that's the double standards that we're
mhm,
talking about. You got one pastor over here telling us that we got to be pretty and presentable and look like a trophy wife. And then you got this fat bastard over here saying, you can't wear no makeup. You're a whore if
mhm,
you do so. Like, what the heck is wrong with these people? And then they wonder why we start questioning everything. Like,
mhm,
I
Or
don't
why
get it.
or why some of us walk out of the house or come to podcasts making sure that we pretty much look perfect at
Yeah.
our age. We don't leave the house without making sure that we're presentable to the world.
Yep.
And I don't know about you, Kat, but it's something that Heather and I struggle with, and you'll see it in our clips, and you'll see it in our TikToks and stuff. We're like, oh, we still battle with perfection. It's really hard just being sloppy sweaters and yoga pants and no
Yep.
makeup. It's like, oh my goodness,
no,
someone will see
yeah.
us.
I'm very much the same way. Like I heard from, any men that I've dated or adults in the church of being like, "Oh, you look pretty without makeup. You don't need all of that." And
Mm.
I think there was one time I was like 15, 16, 17, somewhere in there, where a guy said that to me and I was like, "Oh, I know, but I want to." So
Yes. Yes.
it's because I want to. It's like, but why do you feel to do that? It's like, I don't have to explain myself. I want
Exactly.
to. So thanks. Like,
So,
Right.
I
Kat,
don't need your validation, bro.
Exactly.
no.
Exactly.
I don't need the opinions of people that I wouldn't go to for advice, okay? So, Kat, when did you begin to feel permission to express more of your true self?
I think when I was in my late teens, around 16, 17, 18, that I was starting to be more vocal about, like, with the way that um, the world is now, of just a lot of injustices
Yeah.
and everything, that it just didn't seem like this is not something that, you know, if Jesus was here would ever, be a part of. Like my mom would always say, like, he always aligned himself with tax collectors and
Mm.
prostitutes and people who were lesser than back then. And I kind of equated that to being like, oh well, if Jesus was here, he'd spend time with people in the LGBTQIA community. He would be with people who were single mothers, or like, but it was still a part of my brain that it was just like, was still trying to make sense of Christianity, of being with other people. But now it's like, all of them are worthy, whether they're, one way or the other, like, and just being more vocal about that, and just honestly, like, not apologizing for it. And there were
Mhm.
times where my family will be like, yeah, you're talking a lot about that and it's a little much, and maybe tone it down a little bit. And I would just look at them and be like, you know who my mom is, right? She's going to tell it like it is. She's going to call a spade a spade. And um, was just like, well, we definitely want to, um, you're able to, think what you would like, but there's also the view of our family. And that's just kind of the sense that I got about it. That those weren't their exact words, but I always felt like I needed to kind of, you know, lower my viewpoint on certain things because, it was um, I was beginning to be more outspoken and calling it out if I saw something that just I knew wasn't right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, now I'm much more brazen. I'm definitely like, you know, if you're on some BS, like I'm gonna call that out. Like
Mhm.
I'm not going to apologize for it. And I've had people that are like, you need to calm down. It's like you need to open your eyes. Like you need to, you know, like, do you not see the
Yes, girl.
craziness that you just said or that you're going through right now? Like now I don't I don't give a damn, honestly. I'm just like, I'm gonna call it like it is.
Right.
But back then it was like I was like in a way like giving myself permission to, but also like listening to the people of the church or even my parents that were like, maybe, tone it down just a touch. And so, and I did that, but I was like, but why do I need to? So,
And I always say this too, that people want to say, "Oh, you're so angry."
yes.
But they misspeak, if that's a word. You cannot say because I'm passionate about what I
Yes.
stand for that
Mm,
Yes.
I'm angry with the church. You
Yeah.
cannot, it's not an equal. It's not this versus this.
mm,
I'm not angry because I'm not afraid to say what I want to say now. But you'll hear Christian men come at me all the time and say, you just need to forgive. You're just an angry person. And I'm like, there's nothing about me that's angry. There's passion in me, and you're not allowed to
Yes.
dictate my vocals.
yeah.
And not just that. So, what if we're angry? You're allowed to be angry that there
Right.
are people actively out here harming people and
Mm,
mentally and emotionally traumatizing them.
yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. Just as long as your anger is fueling something positive, like a
Yeah.
podcast talking about religious trauma.
Yes.
Hmm. Looking back, can you remember the early hints? And you've kind of touched on this, but when did you really start the shift? When did you know that this was the beginning of the end?
Yeah. Yeah, and I remember it like it was yesterday. I was doing VBS or Vacation Bible School, and I always was involved in that because I mean I love kids. My career is centered around kids. Um, and you know, I it was in the middle of that, and then my um dad calls me at his office and wants to tell me something. And so I'm like, oh God. And immediately I'm like, I didn't do it. I don't know what happened. Um, but he divulged to me that there was an elder in the church that had come to him and basically said that he was cyber stalking me, um, of trying to um, see all of the places that I had been, trying to see if, my views were godly enough, if things that I was liking on Facebook were, you know, Christian worthy. I had gone to a rally that was a pro-choice and also like supporting women and women that were, had SA in their background like myself, but at the time I was like repressing it hard. But I wanted to go there just to support my friend because she said, I don't want to go by myself. Could you go with me? And I was like, absolutely, yes, I want to support you. And that's literally all it was. It was just me just being there with her, making sure she felt safe. Um, and this elder had a secretary that said I that had gone to the church and recognized me and said, I saw the pastor's daughter at the rally, and I figured that you should know because she looks very much like the pastor's kid at the church that I went to. And he just took that and ran with it and was cyber stalking me, looking at everything that I've ever liked, looking at all of my posts, any comments I would make. And that it was very seldom at the time. And he brought all of his findings to my dad. And my dad was livid. And granted, like it's a very privileged thing, that my dad reacted that way, because there's not a
Yes.
lot of people that has a dad that's the pulpit that would completely call that out and be like,
Yeah.
you are stalking my daughter, and that,
Hmm.
like, how
And
dare you. So
that is so creepy.
yeah, he was absolutely livid. um and then I just kind of was at a standstill, and I was just like, I've taken care of this guy's kids. I have loved his adoptive children that he prayed for years, and held his child when he was a baby and supported his wife, and really come beside them in the struggles that they were having. And it's like, that guy would do that to me. I don't deserve that from anybody, especially
Mm-mm.
somebody that I really genuinely care about their family and their child. Like, it was absolutely ludicrous to me. And so I'm like, if an elder of the church could do something like that to me, what is happening to other people, and what
Yep.
else is happening behind the scenes?
Yeah.
um
Hmm.
and I was just very that was when I was not as enthusiastic to continue doing uh church stuff. But I mean, I still did it, but I was still like, I just had a sense of like distrust of certain people, that I was like, it was
Yeah.
starting to kind of, the rose colored glasses were coming off. And um uh that it had, I think, a couple years after that, it happened again, that it was a different pastor.
Oh, wow.
And I'm just, and you know it gave me a sense of that I wasn't safe anymore.
Yeah. It
That
definitely would. Yeah.
I felt like people that I saw as family are not in my corner anymore. And it was a very, very hard pill to swallow, because then it turned into, I can't trust any of these people. I don't know who
Yeah.
is really in my corner and who's in my family's corner, because like literally all we were told was that both of those men left the church for a different church. And I'm like, okay, so what else is being done? It was like, well,
Hmm.
they understand that what they did was wrong, so they're going to be a part of another congregation and they're not going to be a part of this one. And I'm just sitting there like, he is stalking a
Child.
woman in their early 20s, and he's 40 something stalking somebody when he has a wife and kids. Like,
That's
what?
so messed up.
Like, I don't, I'm just, and I kind of was just like, okay, like, that's it though.
We know, looking back, right, that there was more underneath that stone
Oh, yeah.
that they were hiding.
Yep.
Hmm.
Because there's no accountability for men like
None.
that. Because, like you said, they just ship them off somewhere else. And
Hmm.
they can have the opportunity to do this to someone else, which is
Hmm.
so disturbing.
Yeah.
Like, ugh. So, what felt the hardest about allowing your beliefs to change?
Um, really, really seeing who they really were,
Mm.
honestly. It was, um, I think it was like right before I found out that the second elder was stalking me, that there was a guy that had joined the church. And I mean, my mom dealt with a lot of SA in her past. I had dealt with it, but I was like still repressing it. But there was a guy that joined the church and basically was uh like trying to find a church family, came to Christ and everything, and these elders were always sitting next to him, and I was like, okay. And I met him, and my dad introduced me to him, and I was like, nice to meet you. But he always seemed like stunted in some way, but
Yeah.
also like I just got an eerie vibe about him. Um, then but I was just like, okay, well, he probably is just weird or strange, whatever. Um, and I was hearing through the grapevine that he did something, and I was not sure what it was. So I found his whole name, and I looked it up, and he was convicted twice for child essay.
Oh my.
And I looked at that and I was like, our church is full of kids, crawling with kids, and this guy is allowed to be anywhere near them. And I asked my dad about that, and I asked another elder, and the elder had said, well, we're sitting with him, we're making sure he doesn't reoffend, we're making sure that he is okay. Um, and I'm like, but and I went to my dad, I was like, he's been coming on to me as well. Like this, it's like just so much, it was just disgusting. And I'm like, you're letting somebody that has harmed kids in a church where it's crawling with kids, and especially some women who they don't even disclose that have been through SA, and you're re-traumatizing and you're like unknowingly bringing a predator into the church. Oh, he's going to be sitting with
Yep.
the elders. It's totally fine.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, and my beliefs and what was so hard for me was like, I'm just looking at this elder being like, are you freaking kidding me right now? Like this guy is dangerous. Like
Mm-hmm.
he like I'm pretty sure he's not supposed to be here. Like and and guess where he is now? He's in jail now for reoffending a third time. And he's
That's
going to be there for longer.
insane.
It's like, well,
Wow.
you guys did a bang up job making sure he didn't reoffend again because now he's
Yeah.
in prison. But it's like just the cognitive dissonance and the mental gymnastics that some people have in the church have to do to make something make sense, or being like, we need to forgive them, we need to make sure that we show them the love of God. It's like
Yeah.
you can show the love of God to somebody, but if they are harming kids, get them out of
Yes.
anywhere that has anything to do with a
Yep.
child.
It's crazy. Like, and I
And
have seen
yeah,
it time and time
That
and time again. Like, it's so disgusting and it's so vile. And it's not like your story is not the only one because this happens all the time.
yeah,
it's happening right now in the cult that I left. There's so many abusers sitting on the pews that have never even been in front of a judge because
Yeah.
nobody will go to it. So um, when you ask about it, it's like, well, they're forgiven. It's not for me to judge, it's for God to judge. And
yeah,
I'm like, I'm sorry. I judge. If you're
Yeah.
hurting children,
I'm
I
judging hard.
judging.
mm-hmm.
I'm going to call you out. I'm going to make sure your space is uncomfortable. And I'm going
Yep.
to make sure that those children know, look for me,
Yep.
Yeah,
get away.
yeah,
Yeah.
Because it is always allowed within the four walls of a church house. It's like,
Yep.
well, he's forgiven. He's allowed to be given a second chance. Well, he needs to go find Jesus in a shower, bent over with soap on the ground.
mm.
Just
Yeah.
saying.
It's
Yeah.
like if you want to
I'm
find
a little
God,
feral.
like go to a
Sorry.
jail cell and figure it out. Read the Bible on your own time, but not anywhere
Exactly.
near kids.
Yes.
And not around innocent children, especially if they're indoctrinated with biblical. We become a grooming ground
Yeah.
Yes.
for
Exactly.
children to be set up to be hurt. Instead of teaching them the love of God, we teach them just to accept everybody
And to
when we should
obey.
be saying,
Yep.
right, you see that person there, brother so and so, he's dangerous. If he doesn't leave, we are. Do you see that one right there? He's dangerous. But
Yeah.
every time you go into church, it's like, well, the elders are taking care of him. The pastor understands the situation.
Yeah.
He's been forgiven. And there comes a point that the women on the pews need to start speaking up for the children that they're
Yes.
bearing and raising. I
Yes.
just, I,
Yeah.
I just, that's
Yeah.
that's one of those spots with me that's like
Yeah.
the women are just as guilty because
Yes,
they're like,
they are.
well, everybody deserves a second chance and he's such a good guy.
Yeah.
No.
And where is he at today, Kat? I mean, I can, or they don't even talk about it, but the abuse is so prominent in these churches, and the
Yeah.
pastor knows, and other
Yeah.
people know that they get the creep vibes,
Yeah.
but
And
they watch them like
yeah.
that's okay.
Yeah. They're
Hmm.
yeah, we're supervising him, so we're making sure he's okay. It's like, call the police because I'm pretty sure he's violating some sort of probation or something like that. Like, but
Exactly.
no, it's like he's in the church of God, so everything's cool. It's like, no, that's not how that works. It's like if he's around kids, that's against the law, I'm pretty sure. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, but no, and like even then, it was like just so many questions that I had. I was like, why are you guys letting this guy join the church? Why are you having men, cyber stalking a young woman? And I think that they had gone into some issues with my dad because at the time it was like 2019, 2020. So it was all the Black Lives Matter stuff was really coming around again after everything with George Floyd and everything. And I was becoming much more vocal about it.
Mm-hmm.
And, I, and even my dad was like, that it's a lot that you're talking about. It's like, okay. And, um, but also like there were people in the church that were coming onto him because he teaching from, um, was not teaching from the King James version, was teaching from the NIV, was not being more political with his preaching, was not specifically um, talking about, let's just call him the angry orange,
Yeah.
um, and just and was just not making it political. And he
Yeah.
was just preaching from the scripture, preaching what is in the NIV Bible, and they were not happy with him about it. And it was just like this whole culmination of stuff that even my parents were like, this is not a safe place for our family anymore because
Yeah.
it was the second time I was being stalked by an elder. There were multiple groups within the church that were, coming against him, being like, you need to be more political. You need to preach from the King James version. You need to, you know, do all of these things. You need to do X, Y, and Z to be a good pastor. And, my dad never made anything political. All he talked about was Jesus and what certain stories in the Bible can teach us about life and everything, but he never made it political. And so finally, to his credit, left the church. And you know, he and my mom don't go often. Like my dad preaches every now and again um, at a different church here where I live, but it literally was like the entire wool came off from my eyes, but it was definitely a huge shift for my family of being like, this church is
Yeah.
not safe anymore. And it
Yeah.
it wrecked all of us for a long, long time.
And
But
we hear this so many times. Um, are there parts of your earlier life or faith that you still carry with appreciation?
yeah, like I was in the church and got made a lot of friends with it. I was able to do a bunch of fun stuff with them. Like I all through school, I did, choir and theater, and I did that with the church when I was younger. I did VBS. I put on like a bunch of like uh, women's Bible studies and, organizing things like that. And I did like a lot of like Thanksgiving and holiday dinners. And I liked doing it. I liked, kind of bringing in my creative side with that. So a lot of the fellowship that I had at the time, I look back on it, but I mean, as a whole umbrella, that there were a lot of like red flags that were popping up at the
Yeah.
time. But I feel like when I was able to be more creative and able to, spend time with kids and be able to, explore that of, what now is similar to my career now, that like I look back on that with a lot of happiness, because if I was not around, nursery and teaching Bible school to little kids and everything, I would not have the career that I have now. And
Yeah.
um, I I definitely see that as kind of like the building blocks into what is my life now. But
Hmm.
the whole religion thing is just like, yeah, no. But I see, spending time with kids and kind of culminating that love for kids with a lot of pride now. But,
Yeah.
everything else, no, not so much.
So, what helped you in the transition process from going from the religion into just real life? And where are you at now on your journey? Where have you landed?
Um, Definitely a lot of therapy. Definitely um, just giving myself the space to grieve, because, you know, there are a lot of people that, talk about it, but I don't hear it as often. But deconstructing is some of the most lonely times that you can ever go through. And it's a very lonely journey, because I feel like since I really started deconstructing, like I've been doing this all on my own. And um it's like only recently that I really started talking about it specifically with my dad, of being like, I'm not a Christian anymore. I
Yeah.
can't I can't square with it anymore. I can't find value in it anymore. And it it was very nerve-wracking specifically to talk about it with my dad, but shockingly, he's been very understanding and willing to, have discussions about it. And
That's
that
beautiful.
really is a testament to how I was raised. Like, yeah, I was raised in the church, but
Hmm.
I never felt like I couldn't talk to them about certain things, even
Yeah.
if they were hard. But I feel like it was a roadblock in my brain that I was putting on, of, you know, the classic shame and the um, just not feeling like I could really talk about it without
Yeah.
there being scrutiny. But,
Hmm.
having certain conversations, and like I think it was like a like 3-ish 4 weeks ago that I sent a, a whole list of a bunch of verses for my dad, because during that time, like, and he even asked me like, what exactly got you to this point? And I was like, all I like, and he was like, did you read anything? Like, what did you do? It's like, I read the Bible.
Right.
Yeah.
All I did. I read the actual Bible. And he was like, was there a specific one? No, I
Yeah.
read the Bible, and it's
Yeah.
very problematic. And so I sent him a whole list of things, and he's still combing through it because it was a lot.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
like he's planning on having another discussion about it. But, you know, a lot
It's
of it
really
was
cool.
just
It's really cool that you have a pastor dad, though, that doesn't just preach, but he
right.
lives out what it is that he preaches, you know? Because for so many of us that are deconstructing, I couldn't talk to my Christian pastor dad. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a no go because he got mad at me. It was totally the opposite, the reaction that you would expect. You're going to hell. Your soul's in danger. He literally tells people that I have the woke mind virus,
Yeah.
because that's the side of it that he's on. So to hear you say that your dad is he's asking questions and he's being curious himself. Honestly, honey, you might be the key that unlocks some of his deconstruction without
Mhm.
even knowing it. And that's a beautiful thing. And it's also beautiful to know that your dad is still there. He's still showing
Mhm.
up for you. He
Yeah.
still loves you. He didn't slam the door in your face,
Oh
and say that
yeah.
you're a heathen. It's so beautiful to hear that because
And
very rarely do we hear the stories of
Right.
parents that have been able to hold space for their children while they've been deconstructing.
Because
So,
absolutely. Go.
I've been no contact with my family for 30 years. My brothers, sisters, nieces, nephews, cousins, mother, father. It's been 30 years and it's
So
because I
sorry.
walked away.
yeah.
And I have to tell you, there's those of us, Heather and I, that probably didn't really start deconstructing what until COVID when we found TikTok.
Hmm.
Yeah.
We just walked this path by ourselves, not talking to anybody. And I have to make sure that you understand that we understand how lonely that is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's only been in the last, what, since 2021, 2020, that we've been able to say, oh my God, there's other people out there that are like me, but we've been doing this for 20 years by ourselves. And
Yeah.
it was just like a relief. It was like this huge pressure off my shoulders, knowing that there were other people like me that I could identify with because I had no idea that we were
Yeah.
clueless. We just knew that we left the church, we were backsliders, we were going to hell. And what else is there to do once you're going to hell except make sure you continue the path of going to hell?
Yeah. And a lot of it, like, it was just like unlearning
Hmm.
a lot
Yes.
of things and like giving myself the space um to just be happy with the person that I am and not, not equating myself to like the standards of a man or
Yeah.
just the standards of a whole religion in general. And, you know, of I always think of this analogy that I was around like when Google started becoming a thing. And before that, like somebody asked me a question of being like, hey, how does this work? And that was before Google. It's like I had a whole huge thing of encyclopedias and dictionaries. If the answer wasn't in there, we just went on not knowing. And
Yeah.
it was just such a simpler time before, all like just the internet in general. But now I'm very much that same way that I'm like, I don't know what is I don't know if there's a God. I don't know if there are gods. I don't know about any of that because there's no concrete proof. But
Yes.
it's like I don't. I'm not. Um, I don't let that dictate my life of being like that. I need to, you know, quail
Hmm.
the fury and have to earn the love of somebody that I cannot see, that I've never spoken to. And like a lot of it, especially the conversations I've had with my dad, it's like it's it's a lot of just common sense stuff. It's like we like nobody has been able to see him, nobody has spoken to him. All we have are what was written thousands of years ago. There's no concrete proof, and he tried to retort that, and it's like I know that I love and value you because you're sitting in front of me. You have physically shown
Yes.
me that you love me, that you'll do anything for me, and I can talk to you. I can have a dialogue with you. With God, I don't have that.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
there was just so many times where it's just like the amount of times that I prayed so many times for like my aunt to be healed with cancer, with my grandmother when she was in the bouts of dementia and Alzheimer's, of like just begging for something to happen, for a miracle, and it never came. And like just squaring with the idea that it's like it was it was her time and there isn't a God that is just going to be like, oh, well, everything is completely fine. And, like I got it. I'll make sure that, everything's taken care of. It's like, that's not
Hmm.
realistic. And just being okay with not knowing, and being okay of that I'm not going to have the answers, and I'm not going to twist and cherry pick a mystical book to
Hmm.
whatever my belief system is to make life make sense. Life's not meant to make sense. It's not meant to, you know, yeah, like everybody's going to always question everything. And I'm just in a time now where I'm cool not knowing, and, having my own belief system, and just being like, I just, I'm fine with not knowing. And I sleep well at night not knowing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I have to say this, that sometimes, Kat, that I've said, it would mean like saying, "Oh, God loves me." It's like me going to the graveyard at my great great grandmother's grave and saying, "You love me." Well, she's family. I mean, maybe
Yeah.
she loves me, but she doesn't know me. She
Yeah.
doesn't know who I am or anything. But because she's family and she's my great great grandmother, I love her. But nothing is comes back my way. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
Yeah.
and that's how I often felt about God. It's like, okay, he's supposed to be out there, and I love him, but
And it's forever a
he
one-sided
doesn't love me the
conversation, a
same.
one-sided
Right.
relationship. It's like I'm sacrificing, I'm putting in all this effort, but I'm not getting nothing in return but a bunch of
Right.
religious drama.
Exactly.
Not worth it.
Right. Kat, what do you wish people better understood about leaving a belief system?
Um, that it's okay to ask questions and not to be
Mhm.
scared of that, of that's something that has, I guess, in a way made sense for you, that you've come to know that it's okay to, you know, to just that it doesn't make sense anymore, and to ask those questions and to not be afraid of that. And you know, if something that you've believed in for so long, if they can't handle like just basic common sense questions, then there's something that's seriously wrong. And it's like, um if you can't have an in-depth conversation of like contradictions of problematic stuff that's within the Christian doctrine, that's within the Christian Bible, of that it's just like vastly different versions of God, that it's just so many questioning views and beliefs that contradict themselves, of, especially old versus new, uh, that it's okay to have those questions. And if somebody can't handle them, then, it's okay to look for those questions elsewhere, or it's okay to allow yourself to just to go to, do the hard thing and
And you're allowed
research and
you're allowed to give your self permission,
yeah.
because we were
Mhm.
taught so long that we couldn't trust ourselves. So, and that's one thing that I think that we stress just about every week when we have the show, but you are allowed to give yourself permission to be curious, to ask the hard questions, to go searching for more if that's what you feel like you need, because there's nothing wrong with that. So, as we're starting to wind down here, Kat, we always like to ask the people that are on this show if you had a piece of advice or some info that you would like to pass on to somebody who might now just be starting their deconstruction journey. What would you want them to know? What would you want to share with them?
um that you're worth more than what other people say about you. You are worth, um you know thinking better about yourself, to be kind to yourself, because this religion really can tear you down, and has torn so many people down, of making people, um, feel like that they're only meant for one specific job, like, with women, that they're meant to marry and have babies, that they're
Yeah.
meant to further the kingdom with making more babies, of, supporting your husband. And, even now I'm not like, I'm the on the way opposite spectrum of any kind of religion now, but you know, and there are people that aren't Christian that want to, honor their husbands and have kids and everything, and that's great. That's what you should do, but that's not what defines you. That's
Mhm.
not something that you are solely made and built for. There is a whole life and a whole world
Yes.
out there that wants your input, that wants, you know, the zest and the spice of life that you can bring to it. There's like, you're meant for so much more than what society within Christianity has told you for so long, that you are, as long as, by the time you're this age, that you have kids, that you're married, then you're
Yep.
successful, you're a successful Christian.
Yes.
No, no. Like,
Right.
like, yeah, if you want to do that, if somebody wants to have kids and, be a part of the church, cool, but that's not what defines you. That shouldn't be what
Yes.
defines you, because before all of that, you are your own individual person. To not be afraid
Yes.
of discovering yourself, of discovering what is really important to you, but also not finding yourself in the lens of just um such a honestly misogynistic, um, stifling religion,
Hmm.
that, we're
Yes.
all worth more than that.
Barefoot and pregnant and staying in the kitchen. If you got those three things covered, you're a Proverbs 31 woman.
Good
Yep.
Lord, that's my nightmare now.
I know, right? Well, Kat, if I don't say this, welcome to the club. You'll fit right in with Heather and I.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
And what feels supportive for you after this conversation? What would you like to see from us? What would feel supportive of you for you?
I think just keep continuing to do what you guys do. And like, I think I went on a whole binging thing this past week, because I've I went it's been a crazy stressful week. And so anytime that I had to myself, I was just like, okay, what do I do? And like, I mean, we had talked about like doing this. And so I binged all y'all's
Oh
episodes.
my goodness, that's
Um,
so sweet.
and I'm pretty sure, yeah, I subscribe to you guys so that way I get,
Yes.
Yes, that's
notifications and
awesome.
everything. But just what I really sensed was that it was a very welcoming and honest and, very loving atmosphere. And I just
Yeah.
felt like, you know, I want to be more vocal about, how, you know, just to make sure that people know that, they're worthy of more than all of this. And
Yeah.
that's honestly like what the vibe from you guys is, that I feel, is that it's welcoming, it's understanding, it's curious, it's, supportive. And that's what all people should feel like. And even if
Yeah.
they come to it later in life, um, there's people that are, going through the same journey, and just, feeling like you're not alone at all, because it's very easy to feel like that. But I feel like just a sense of just, comfort and warmth from you guys. And I really hope that there's a lot of people that really, um, feel that same feeling, and just feel like, there are people that are going through the same thing, but also that they want to know your story and learn from it, and,
Yeah.
come alongside you, and just in a whole group of support, because it's a lonely road. But, once you find your people and find your community, your whole world opens up, and you're like,
Yes.
this is exactly the peace that I prayed for so long. And this piece
Yes.
is outside of religion. Like, this is,
Yep.
Yes.
and I can be very confident in saying, like, I prayed every day for happiness, for peace, for community. And I've never felt that once until I really started deconstructing and really, coming into myself and finding people like you guys
Yeah.
that really care and want to support people.
Say, Kat, Heather and I met while we were deconstructing 5 years ago, and we
Yeah.
just become best friends because we could relate so much to each other.
Yeah.
And to have you join our journey and for you to say those kind words, I can't tell you, because we've always said, if it's just one person that's out there looking for a way, and Heather and I can, be that lighthouse, that we didn't have.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it's all about. It's making sure that people feel connected and are not alone, because Heather and I know how lonely it was to
Yeah.
do this all by ourselves and try to figure things out and not have each other just to bounce thoughts off of, saying, hey, I'm having this thought. And I don't know where it's coming from. Can I say it out loud to you and know that it's not going to be judged, even if it's something like way off the wall that we're afraid to
Yeah.
even say to somebody, because
Yeah.
it's so important to have that connection. And I just want to make sure that you know that we appreciate you and your kind words,
Yeah.
and thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for being here today. And you guys heard Kat say it themselves. This is a safe space for your voice to be heard. If
Yeah.
you've never felt comfortable sharing your story before, we have a space for you at our table at The Awakening. Send us an email at theawakeningpod@gmail.com. We would love to have you as a guest on our show. And if you enjoyed this episode, please hit that subscribe button. We could not continue to do this work, continue to elevate people's voices, if it's not for you guys supporting us every single week. So thank you again, Kat. I appreciate you so much. More than you know, your story has been so powerful and your words are so impactful. So thank you.
Thank you. I want to say thank you as well, Kat. And at any time, we'll make sure that you have our contact information and that you truly know that you are no longer alone.
You have
Yeah.
a whole community.
See,
And
now you're
that's
gonna
what
make
we're
me
here
cry.
for. We're here to build community.
Yeah.
We are telling stories of people healing loudly, okay?
Yeah.
But I always say that we are healing loudly together. We're
Yes.
doing this as a community. So if you haven't found your community yet, you can find it here at The Awakening. Religion has many victims, and these are the stories of how they survived.
The preceding podcast is solely owned by the host or hosts and is distributed by Big Media LLC. Copyright 2026.